experiences with hepatitis C, and I very warmly welcome Jill. Okay, so Dawn is here and Jill, and they're going to take a turn each to speak about their experiences. Thank you.
Hi everybody, welcome. Back in February 4th of 1994, I was diagnosed with HIV, Hep B, Hep C, and was told my cancer was back. And 20 years later, I'm still here. My Hep B is gone. My cancer, I just had surgery 2 weeks ago. For the 7th time, I survived. It's gone. And I started my Hep C treatment in September. So I am one of the few success stories that I am so excited to be able to share and to be able to be up here today and to be able to share this with you, knowing that there is all these doors and windows open that we can go through. If you make that choice, go get tested. You don't know if you have it until you're tested. Please. Thank you.
This so I can reach better. Stigma is defined as a negative attitude or belief you have about a person or group that has the power to create a negative association and discrimination against that person or group. My experience was I was diagnosed with Hep C in 2005, but I didn't receive treatment until years later because the doctor felt I wasn't emotionally or physically stable enough, and I was homeless at the time. At that time, I knew absolutely nothing about Hep C except what I had heard about it over the years, which unknown to me was stigma based on misinformation. So upon diagnosis, I internalized all that stigma and believed it to be true. I asked my doctor to tell my boyfriend because I was afraid of his reaction. I felt like a walking infection, dirty and tainted, and I expected to be dumped by him, which I felt would be justified on his part. That's the day I fell in love with him, because he didn't treat me any differently after being told. He was so understanding and supportive, even though he didn't know anything about Hep C either. Someone who I confided in brought me to Solid where others accepted me, and I met others who also currently and formerly had Hep C. Still, there was too much information thrown at me at first. I couldn't process it all. It was too overwhelming. Also, I was still receiving information. Like I remember someone giving me shit when my boyfriend and I kissed or shared a cigarette, saying that I was putting him at risk by doing it, and if I wasn't going to listen to her, then not to come crying to her when he catches it. My boyfriend and Solid's reaction gave me hope that others would not stigmatize me and that I was overreacting. Boy, was I wrong. Some people I disclosed to backed away from me, as if they might catch Hep C just by breathing the same air as me, or as if some Hep C bug might make a giant leap from my body to theirs, instantly affecting them. Friends of the family who knew me since I was in my mother's belly were horrified and told me not to tell my dad, who was my only living parent. Sorry. They said he would reject me for sure. The ironic part that I realize now is that they were projecting their own judgment about people who have Hep C onto someone else. Because as it turned out, they're the ones who ended up not having anything to do with me. Whereas my dad, who I'd never been really close to, was extremely supportive when he found out. There was rejection from so many places. Even one doctor, who I went to for some other health problem, treated me like I was a pariah when he found out I had Hep C. Not knowing who would reject me for having the Hep C virus and who would accept me, I didn't tell anybody else. I took all the necessary precautions, but it became my big secret, out of fear of being stigmatized even further, which reinforced my own internalized stigma and feelings of shame. It took a long time, but eventually I learned to accept the diagnosis and not be afraid of it. As I gained more knowledge about it through written information, and especially listening, talking, and asking questions from others who were living with it, and making connections with him, I stopped stigmatizing myself, and I wasn't afraid of people knowing my big secret anymore. Eventually, with lots of emotional and physical support from my boyfriend, peers, real friends, and others, I successfully completed 6 months of Hep C treatment and am now virus-free. And what I'd like to say in conclusion is that stigma can stem from ignorance, and most people don't know very much about the things or groups that they stigmatize, and much of what they do know or think they know is inaccurate. Our culture has a fear of death and disease, and things that we associate with them, and this unexamined fear can easily turn into anger and hatred. Stigma includes blaming people for having HIV or HCV and making assumptions about how they got it. Stigma dehumanizes the people who are stigmatized. It's impossible to know all there is to know in the world, and people tend to think if something doesn't affect me, why should I care or know anything about it? Because many people have it, whether you know it or not, and education can be a preventative measure. If I would have known then what I know now, maybe I wouldn't have contracted the Hep C virus. Having a stigmatizing attitude based on misinformation, lack of knowledge, etc., is counterproductive and just makes you more vulnerable to contracting Hep C because you won't know what precautions to take, and anybody who has it is not going to tell you because of your attitude. The right information prevents you from stigmatizing others and/or internally stigmatizing yourself. It widens your lens and understanding. Today, my heart goes out to all those who are still facing stigma. Just know you're not alone. Wherever you are in the world, whether it be here or somewhere else, our spirit of solidarity is there with you. And one day I hope that you will all be free of this virus, which affects so many.